Welcome to Prunership Diaries. Today we have with us Kaushika Vishwanath, who started craft brewing as a hobby and he has now turned into a head brewer at one of India's best brew pubs, The Grid. He's also a video gamer, craft beer brewing equipment designer, rookie distiller, probiotic fermentation enthusiast, and an aspiring permaculturist.
Yep.
Welcome to my show, Kaushika. I mean, so glad to talk to someone who enjoys brewing, and I'm going to learn a lot today for sure. And I'm looking forward to have a tipsy conversation with you. So welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shweta. I've heard a lot about your podcast. One of my friends also was in the podcast. So it was very nicely done, and I really appreciate the effort you're doing. And as a fellow entrepreneur, I would really congratulate you for all those 40 plus episodes you've done. And cheers to that. Caldera wishes you all the
Yes.
best along with me.
Oh wow.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Cheers, and I'm just looking forward to have a wonderful, conversation with you this evening.
Thank you. Yeah.
Super. So let's get started. All right.
Yeah.
For a graduate in biotechnology,
Mhm.
what got you interested in brewing?
So during my biotech stint in RV college, so
Uh-huh.
I had no idea what I was studying. Like there was biotechnology, there was zoology, then there was a bit of chemistry, then there was
Right.
Sanskrit I had to deal with, then English, then Kannada. So as
Right.
a pure science major, major, yeah. So I had no idea. People, I mean, everyone at that time they were telling it's ITBT. ITBT is the future. So IT being the IT sector and
Yes.
BT being the
Right.
biotechnology sector. But
Right.
nobody had any idea what is the biotechnology sector. Like they
Right.
were reading about Biocon, which is a big giant in biotechnology, but they had no idea what was happening in Biocon.
Right.
So actually, it was more into pharma, people who had future in biotechnology,
Mm-hmm.
and none of us had any idea what to do with it. We were reading about gene mutation, we were reading about how to propagate yeast, how to curb bacterial growth in food factories and stuff.
Right.
But none of us actually really got a job in biotechnology. None of us did.
Mm.
Everybody took different streams, and they're all in different parts of India and the world, and not
Right.
related anything to biotechnology, except for me actually, because I
Ah.
did study about yeast
Yes.
and yeast handling and microbiology and how to take care of malts, how to prevent any infestation and stuff. So I had little understanding about yeast and how to brew beer back then.
Right.
We did
Right.
even, in fact, we even brewed a batch on lab scale there,
Ah.
and I don't know what all we added. I vaguely remember there was one wild card student who said, "Let's add eggs in it." Like
Oh.
what?
Okay.
What? This is what are you trying to do? So we had
Right.
no idea. We were just going berserk in the lab. Then finally, I couldn't land a job in any biotech companies.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Then I was good with my computers. I had some language control on English, and I somehow cracked an interview in Oracle, which is an IT
Ah.
company. So
Yes.
I worked there for nearly 2 years, and people were stunned, like, "Oh, you are from a biotechnology background. What are you doing in an IT firm?" I'm
Okay.
like, "I have no idea. I'm just 20. I have no idea what to do." So
Right.
then I sat there. I mean, I was working for 2 years. I was also contemplating, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
What can I do to make
Uh-huh.
my life better, and
Mm-hmm.
also to make bring in something which can bring joy to someone's life or
Absolutely.
people around me. So then
Right.
I started researching. I didn't know where to start, where to stop. So I just started brewing as a hobby.
Ah.
And then there was a lot of failed batches. Like none of them tasted good. Like
Right.
nearly 50, 60 batches. They were all like
Wow.
gooey mixtures. They were oatmeal kind of consistency. They were all contaminated. So I was battling through all that because there was lack of information about home brewing. And
Right.
there was not much internet back in that time. I'm talking
Mm.
2008, 2009. The
Right.
internet boom only came in 2012, 13, 14, where
Right.
people started connecting to the internet and understanding and how to use internet for their
Yes.
will. Then, so slowly I started asking my friends and cousins who were traveling abroad to bring in different malls, different yeasts. So I
Mm-hmm.
started using them,
Okay.
incorporating them into the recipe, and then voila, I had my eureka moment. So one of those
Right.
beers came out fine.
Ah.
First one being it was just a pale ale. It was not filtered. It was hazy. I remember clearly.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of yeast particles in it. There was a lot of what we call as protein haze in it. So there was a lot of it, but I still enjoyed it. Like, okay, this is not bad. I mean, I can
Right.
have this. Like, I can have a
Yes.
glass or two. Let me ask the others around. Like, can they have a glass or two? Can this be?
Right.
No. Can I make this better? Then I made more batches, more and more batches. Then I made an IPA. Then I made a,
Hmm.
stout. Then I incorporated ragi into the beer. Then I
Ah.
incorporated Jover into the beer. They
Okay.
were not great beers, but I still did it.
You wanted to experiment, yeah.
Yeah, I want to experiment. Then I made a nice porter, and then I made a Belgian style wheat beer, which you will
Ah.
have to use orange and coriander in it.
Wow.
That changed everything. Like people
Mm-hmm.
started loving it. Like, oh, this is a good beer, dude. I mean, I can have this. Like, I can have a lot of it. Then I
Right.
made a German style Hefeweizen, which was again amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that recipe I'm still using here. So, which is quite palatable to the Indian audience, and people love it.
Wow. Wow.
So, and then I thought, why don't I take this up to the next level? I mean, I'm in the IT sector. Okay, I'm earning enough money to take care of
Right.
myself and the family.
Right.
But what if I go on this line? Because I know if whatever happens in the world, people will eat food, take their medicines,
Right.
drink
Right.
alcohol, and always go back
Right.
home and sleep. So I was
Yes.
like, okay, let me do one of those. And unconsciously, brewing was supposed to be one of the first jobs in the world. Agriculture and brewing were the
Uh-huh.
first jobs in the world.
All
So
right.
brewing has been there since so many millennia
Ages. Yes.
before Christ and before whatnot. I mean, just after agriculture
Right.
was brewing because
Correct.
people wanted to save their crop in a
Mm-hmm.
way
Mm-hmm.
that does not get spoiled. So they were making something out of it and then storing it.
Got
So
it.
that's how beer started.
Ah. All
And
right.
then, so I thought, okay, let's go ahead. Did my master's in brewing and distilling in Scotland
Oh wow.
in Heriot Watt University.
Uh-huh.
So that was a wonderful time. It was a lot of hard work. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
as an amateur, as a rookie, I couldn't understand what I was studying.
Okay.
But yeah, it was so technical, and I was trying to figure out so many things. There
Right.
were a couple of classmates who were also from India,
Mm.
and we were all sitting together and helping each other out. One of them brews beer for Beer Club, the other guy for Brooks and Bonds in Bangalore,
Wow.
then the other guy is in Budweiser.
Mm.
So yeah, the story was good. I mean, we all
Uh-huh.
had a lot of fun. Then we started tasting different beers, which was never available in the Indian market.
Right.
So then
Right.
that struck me like, hey, I think we should give out new beers in the Indian market. I mean, there's always this straightforward beers which are, lack of flavor. It's
Right.
just marketed so heavily, but there is no flavor profile to it. If you
Mm-hmm.
just taste the beer by itself, it's like, okay, it's just fine. And the usual concept in pubs in Bangalore back then was like, we want chilled
Right.
beer. Because once you have something really cold, it
Yeah.
just kills all your palate. Like you
Right.
cannot taste anything. Can you understand ice? When
Yeah.
you taste ice, it's just
Yes.
frozen something. It just makes
True.
your tongue numb.
True.
So the idea of how people used to serve beer in the pubs back then were to numb the palate and just
Mm.
make them get drunk. That was the idea. So we
Right.
want to change the whole landscape of it.
Mm.
So we thought, let's bring in beers which people enjoy, have a conversation like this, and have beer along with it,
Wow,
and
amazing.
not just bluntly drink,
Yeah.
get drunk, and
Right.
be a social menace.
Right.
So that's how the vision started. Then I came back.
Right.
Actually, came back for a project.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do a project with Amrut Distilleries back then.
Right.
So they called me. They went through my project. Like I want to do something with East.
Mm-hmm.
How East can impact the whiskey flavors.
Right. Okay.
So I said, yeah. I mean, that's why don't we do it? Is what
Mm.
the correspondent in London said. Like,
Ah.
yeah, yeah, go there. And then a
Okay.
tragedy struck.
What
The
happened?
MD of the MD back then, who's
Uh-huh.
Mr. Late Jagdale, he
Mm-hmm.
said, we have never heard anything like this. My correspondent never mentioned this here.
Uh-oh.
We're like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I
Mm-hmm.
just traveled from Edinburgh to back to Bangalore just to do a project. Are you guys okay?
Right.
And the HR was calling me back and forth, like, no, we don't know. Okay, you can join. Okay, you can't join. So I said, you know what? It's okay, leave it. Then the
Oh,
MD finally had a meeting with me and he said, you know what? I think you should explore other avenues because I cannot promise you. We are running a
right.
company. I'm just being straightforward with you. I said, okay, no
Right.
problem.
Right.
So then I said, then I called one of my friends
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
from my school. He said he has a cousin who was wanted to start a brewery in
Wow.
Bangalore.
Okay.
I said,
Okay.
okay, I don't mind helping them out.
Right.
So they finally, he called his cousin and they called me for an interview. And I went there, we spoke, and they were like, yeah, I mean, I think you just have to join and help us design a CIP regime for our brewery,
Wow.
which was non existent. The brewery was still non existent.
Right.
So I designed a CIP regime for them where how to use caustic, which is a chemical to get rid of all the soiling
Mm.
after you finish a beer.
Right.
Then how to pacify the tank, how to ensure the tank is always clean, the contamination doesn't occur in the lines. So I
Right.
designed
Right.
a CIP program for them,
Mm.
which I don't think they used later on because
Okay.
the project just started and we were trying to get in equipments from one place to another. And
Right.
then we set up the first brew pub in JP Nagar called Brewski or
Oh.
Brewsky.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was,
Okay.
So I was the, I was the main, not the main guy. I was the guy behind getting all the tanks, getting it,
Right.
keeping it in shape and brewing the beer there.
Right. Yes.
Then there was excise issues. Then we couldn't start,
Mm-hmm.
and excise in India is terrible.
Oh, all right.
So they never understand the mentality of what a business is.
Excuse me. Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
somehow we managed. We went through rough seas and somehow pulled in some strings and got the license.
Ah,
Then
all
we
right.
start brewing. So yeah, that has been the journey of from biotechnology to
I
professional brewing.
know.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, from biotechnology to brewing.
Mhm.
But so, I mean, it's quite an interesting journey because I think when you were working in Oracle and you were just figuring out, okay, what am I doing here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that got you started, and then you took it up, and it's so nice that something which you just wanted to try out as a hobby,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think you just channelized it. Okay, let me see how this goes.
Yeah, I
And
just took my chances.
yeah,
You have to gamble with your life at some point, either early or
absolutely.
much later. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's wonderful. All right. So then you started brewing. You're in Bangalore.
Mhm.
Before you get on with your journey in Grid, Kolkata. Before that, so I
Yeah.
want to know how has been the journey of being a brewer. I mean, you were trying out different things, but then, um, I want to know because for a person who's starting his career, I mean, of course, he was had a degree and was trying out in the Indian market, brewing in the Indian market. I want to know what was running through your mind at that point in time. I mean, did you know that okay, this is how it's going to be, like, I'm going to work in various other places and then put in my, the way of brewing or the process into it. um So what was running through your mind? Like, were you like sure, like, I have a path in front of me and this is how I'm going to go? Or was it something like you were still exploring? So I just want to know what was going on your mind.
So I was walking a dark alley and just paving the stones right in front of me
Oh, wow.
because
Yes.
because it was so new. It is still a new field where not many
Right.
people understand about this field.
Correct.
Uh, I didn't know where I was heading to. I
Mm.
just took my chances, and now
Yes.
it's actually much easier because there are people to tell you, like, I think if you want to do this, go in this path. For me, there was nobody.
Right.
After I started brewing, I met other professionals. I met a few, I have a few mentors, which is Vidya, who's my first
Mm.
mentor. She's
Wow.
a brewmaster at Geist.
Ah,
And then I
okay.
have another mentor who is a brewmaster, who was a brewmaster at Toit, Mr.
Ah,
Matthew Callahan, but
wow.
he expired recently.
Hmm. All
So
right.
yeah, he was more of a fatherly figure, less of a mentor for me. He was a friend. So
Yes.
his loss was very deep for me,
Hmm.
and he was lovable for everyone. So yeah,
Right.
these guys helped me a little. I mean, they told me
Okay.
like, okay, you do this,
Mm-hmm.
and then and Matthew only referred me to Calcutta to Grid, and that's how I
Right.
ended up here. So
Wow.
it's all about connections, your PR, and people get to see how hardworking you are,
Right.
and they once
Right.
they start understanding you, it's how humble you are and how open you are for any kind of work. When you say
Right.
brewer and you say I brew beer, it's not just you're having a glass and sipping on an awesome beverage.
Yes.
So it takes more than just malts and brewing and understanding hops and yeast. It's all about it's
Right.
mostly cleaning.
Right.
So it's like you have to be the best. Uh, what can I say? Housekeeping guy there is.
Right.
You should be the best, and you should be really, really uh, finicky about how cleanliness and hygiene is, which is very, very much non-existent in India.
Mm.
Hygiene
Yes.
and cleanliness is highly non-existent in India because people just take it for granted. And the pandemic has showed us like how careless we are with hygiene and how to
True.
maintain social distancing and everything because people just don't get it. So I had to train people about that. So that was my first major
Right.
issue with people. Like I had to train everyone, even they were educated, they didn't understand. They were,
Yes.
sometimes digging up their nose and working. I was like,
Ah.
dude, that's not how you do it.
Right.
So get your personal hygiene in place, and then work hygiene comes in. So it's all
Yes.
about ensuring your hygiene is
Mm.
superb. So
Wow.
that's how you can crack excellent beers. And any
Right.
brewer or any home brewer, ace home brewer, you
Mm.
can ask, they'll say, oh, hygiene. Sanitizing, cleaning, hygiene is very, very important.
Right.
So, a big part of it came from my mom because she was always finicky about hygiene. Like, this has
Right.
to be kept like this has to be clean like this, it has to be shiny, don't eat in
Right.
soiled plates and this, that. So that actually helped me too. So, whatever small pieces you can gather from childhood actually helps you out later on, which you don't realize in different
Yes.
ways.
Yes. Yeah.
So that helped me. And then my cousins used to always stress upon, study, 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 but that never worked with me. But I used to be always very curious with many things. Like
Right.
if a teacher used to ask a question biotechnology in college, I used to come up with a different answer which was not in the syllabus. She's like, where did you learn this? I mean, what kind of research is this? This is not in the syllabus. But it is right. I cannot even deny what you're telling. Whatever you're telling is right. Like, how is cancer caused? I would say free radicals. I like, okay, that is also a part of this. And she's like, okay, I agree. Whatever you're telling, you agree. But that will not fetch you marks, my sir. So I'm like, okay,
Right.
but I'm not here for marks. I'm here for knowledge.
Right.
So it's all about breaking the boundaries, breaking the ideas of what it is, And then finally coming to a place where you feel, okay, there should be some discipline.
Right.
Like if you want to pursue this, you have to start understanding this and you have to pursue that to the
Right.
very extent. Like that's why I took up masters for it.
Yes.
Although
Yes.
I mean, it didn't help me much, but in India, if you want to gain
Mhm.
recognition, they'll ask you what is your qualification. Till date, they
True.
still ask you what is your qualification. So you have to understand
Yes.
how the market works. You can't just say I will be like this. I'm a rebel and I will just walk my path.
Yes.
So even though I was keeping my own stones, I was understanding what was going around me. So be
Right.
aware of your environment and be aware how things work around you
True.
because it will not be the way you want it to work.
Yeah. Yes.
So you have to
So
understand if you
definitely.
want your vision to, there should be fruition of your vision. You want to please everyone around you, and only then will they acknowledge your vision. So when I had to convince my parents, like in India, alcohol is a
Yes.
taboo. So,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
come from a Brahmin family, and they were like, "What are you going to study about?" And I had, tips with dad because when you homebrew, you
Yeah.
can't estimate the amount of carbonation in the bottle. Like it
Right.
sometimes overcarbonates and it bursts, like literally
Ah.
bursts.
Okay.
The
Uh-huh.
glass shatters, it's like a bomb. So we
Whoa.
call it bottle bombs.
Whoa. All
So
right.
he thought I was going to be a terrorist. So I had to convince him I am not.
Oh
I mean,
my.
I am a rebel, I understand, but I am not a terrorist. So he said,
Okay.
"Oh shit, what have I done? My son is going to be a terrorist." So actually, it burst. The bottles burst at like 2 a.m.
Oh
one
my.
one one night, and and it was in a very closed space. So
Pace.
obviously,
Right.
it was louder than
Yeah.
it was supposed to be,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and it even shattered one of the windows
Oh
in that
my.
in that room.
Okay.
So actually, the whole neighborhood woke up. I mean, when I say whole neighborhood, like couple of houses
Right.
adjacent to us.
Yes.
So they thought the transformer bursted. So
Okay.
usually we have this thinking like anything bursts around it should be a transformer. So we were all looking at
Right.
transformers. The transformer is fine. Then what just happened? We're all everyone's perplexed. Like what can burst at 2 a.m. and we can't figure out. So then I thought, let me go have a look in that room. I was like, oh, okay, all right. I have to clean this up before dad finds out. And
Right.
dad is dad. He'll figure out one way or another. So there were some small bottle pieces here or there, and he was like, "Why have there glass pieces here and there?"
Yeah.
I said, "I have no idea. I have no idea. It has. You should have an idea because I figured out it was you who bursted all those." I said it was an accident. It was not. No, it's not like I really wanted to do it.
Right.
Then he was like, "No, no, you're up to something. I know this is not right. Don't be on this path." Then all this philosophy started.
Uh-huh.
And finally, when the beers were all fine, when he started tasting, then my uncles, my nephews, and cousins started tasting. They were like, "Hey, this guy, I think there is something in it. I mean, I think he
Wow.
should do whatever he wants." And still, they were
Nice.
not convinced. So I
Mm-hmm.
went to Scotland, telling that I'm going to study about water
Oh,
chemistry and stuff. And then
okay.
I forced them to, accept the fact like I have electives here where I have to learn
Right.
how to treat a water for a brewery, how to treat a water for a distillery. So I have to take it up and I have to learn about that also. They're like, okay, okay.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. But now they don't question. They're like, whatever you did is good. I mean, we understand. What alcohol was a taboo back then is because
Yeah.
people uh, were getting drunk. There was no,
Yeah.
limitation to it. They should
Right.
know, like, you should drink so much and just be okay with it. You don't have
Right.
to get drunk and, be a social menace.
I know.
So,
Yes.
everything, I mean, if you overdo anything, it's bad. I mean, if you drink water too much, it's poisonous. You can die. So, if
Mm.
you end up drinking alcohol, of course, it is
Yeah.
hazardous.
Right.
So, the key is control yourself and not drink. And then they understood, okay, it is not so bad as what we thought. And then education was a big key for all that. So
Right.
yeah, moving on, getting back to track of how people should start get into brewing.
Yeah.
So again, brewing is an art. It's not like you can just become a
Right.
painter or you can just start designing pottery or anything.
Exactly.
There is a
Yeah.
lot of science. There is a lot of
Art and science of
learn.
it. Yes.
Yeah, art and science. There is a lot of metallurgy. There is a lot of botany.
Mm.
There is a lot of microbiology. There is a lot of yeast. There is a lot of water chemistry.
Yeah.
So if you are ready to put your head into all that, then yeah, go ahead. If you're going to say no, I will just brew beer, and if it's not something which pleases the other person, you can't
Right.
sell your beverage. So if you can't sell your beverage, then
Yes.
I don't think anybody is going to appreciate your efforts. Maybe you
Yeah.
are happy with what the outcome is, but if the
Right.
other person doesn't say yes, or if the other investor or anyone who says, "Yeah, I'm going to put some money in it and you can proceed
Mm.
in it," then that's no point. So yeah,
Right.
you have to understand how things work around you and
Correct.
also make your path in that way where people can appreciate your beverage.
Yes.
And if you bring out radical beers in the market, where I've had beers which are at 40% alcohol,
Mm.
which tasted like a wine, there was no carbonation in it.
Ah.
So those things I don't think will ever work in India at the moment. It's going to take its own time.
Right.
So you
Right.
have to understand the market and then work along with it.
Ah.
And there is
Wonderful.
some amount of investment involved. There is some
Yes.
amount of learning involved. There's a huge part of excise involved, which is
Mm.
the government prohibition laws for alcohol, where it is all very controlled. So you can't just
Yes.
say I will just brew whatever beer I want without reading those laws. So you
Right.
have to abide by those and
Mm-hmm.
then give out beers.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing. I mean, quite a journey.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my God. Lovely. And I just want to know, did the neighbors get to know that it was you?
No, 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 no. So I
Wonderful.
gave them beers, so they never got to know. They're like, yeah, these are good beers. You're an awesome neighbor. This is the best neighbor I've ever had. So yeah,
Oh, wow.
never ever tell that you bursted something.
Oh, super.
Ever.
Amazing. Oh,
Especially
well,
neighbors. Yeah.
yes, I know. But glad, I mean, amazing with your experimenting. And of course, I mean, love the way that, you went ahead with what you really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think,
Thank you.
of course, parents and friends, I think once they
Yeah,
know that what you're doing is
everybody
like
were
amazing.
instrumental. Yeah, they were
Yes.
influential. But none of them knew what I was doing. Nobody
Right.
knew. Like
Right.
I could ask anybody in the vicinity or so many people online.
Right.
Nobody knew.
Super.
So once I started this journey, then I started meeting people of similar interests.
Right.
But
Right.
when you start, you will not find anyone.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. But that's good. That's a part of the journey. And
That is the
yes,
part of the journey. Yeah,
you will obviously meet like-minded people, and then of course you
yeah,
get
yeah,
to network and
yeah, yeah,
learn
yeah.
and teach people, of course. Wonderful. So now, I mean, coming to what I really want to ask is, when did you become a part of Grit Kolkata? And
So it was.
I want to know, how did you get into setting it up, and if you could let us know as to setting up a venture is one, but then you're setting up a brewery altogether. So what goes into it? I mean, it's a completely different thing. It's not about just tables, chairs, and all of
No,
that. It's
so
more to it. So could
yeah,
you
yeah,
please let us know about it?
yeah, yeah. So when I was brewing in Big Picture on Old
Mhm.
Airport Road,
Okay.
so I met with the brewmaster of Toy and
Mm.
different manufacturing equipment manufacturing company. They were stoked to meet me and talk to me and uh, drink my beers there. They were like, "Hey, we have a client in Calcutta. I mean,
Hmm.
craft beer is non-existent throughout almost throughout India. So we want to.
Right.
The client is already signed up with us, and they want to start brewing beers in Calcutta. So could you help us
Hmm.
out? Could
Hmm.
you be part of the journey?" I said, "Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Hook me up with them. Let me talk to them. Let them come down, taste my beers."
Right.
So what happens in this is we don't get to interview. I mean, they don't get to interview us. We
Right.
get to interview people who want to start it off. Why? Because they have to understand what craft beer is. They have to taste the beers. They have to understand what
Right.
it means to brew craft beers. What is the investment? And
Just one question out there. Sorry
yeah,
to
no
interrupt.
problem. Yeah.
Could you tell us? I mean, of course, the listeners out here, craft beer. I mean, could
Hmm.
you please let us know, because of course many of us wouldn't know what a craft beer is, because
Certainly,
I know
certainly.
there's a commercial beer which is like done on a large scale, and a craft
Correct,
beer is
correct.
like you have a set of ingredients and you're trying to bring out a particular recipe. Is what I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
what would like to hear it
So
from you.
craft beer, I can show you some ingredients here.
Oh.
Maybe some. Sorry, give me a second.
Sure.
So, so as you can see, so there's a
Oh
lot of
my.
ingredients here.
Oh
So these
my.
are all malts. So this is an adjunct.
Uh-huh.
This is flaked wheat.
Oh wow.
Then as you can see, there are different colors in the malt. So
Right.
this is a base malt, which is Pilsner, and this is a crystal malt.
Mm.
So
Okay.
all these give out different flavor profiles in the beer.
Right. Right.
So you can
Uh-huh.
see the difference in colors.
Yes.
So the color differences come based on moisture, the kilning temperature. When I say kilning, it's basically roasting. I wouldn't exactly call it roasting, but it's called kilning for a reason.
Wow.
We heat up the malt or
Mm.
dry up the malt, and we have yeast, which is
Ah.
like this,
Right.
which is like this,
Uh-huh.
and we have hops which come in pellet forms, which is like this.
Ah. Okay. Uh-huh.
So there are different kinds of malts,
Mm-hmm.
different kinds of hops, different kinds of yeast.
Right.
So in craft beer, we play around with all these ingredients, but in a
Ah.
commercial beer, it is much more regulated. When I say
Got
regulated,
it.
it has to reach the masses.
Mm.
So when it has to reach the masses, obviously the quality is questionable.
Right.
Quality of the raw materials are questionable. But in craft beers, we use the best of the best. We import all these malts come from Germany or Scandinavia or US or UK.
Wow.
But most of the malts, what the commercial people use are
Mm-hmm.
quite local, which is uh, devoid of the necessary nutrients in it to make a
Got
beer,
it. Mm.
devoid of the sugar content. When I say
Mm.
sugar content, it's the malt sugars which has to be present for
Okay.
fermentation.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a huge difference between them and us. We use the best quality ingredients. We don't filter our beers. We
Mm.
naturally let them settle down, and we brew in small batches.
Right.
When you make something in small batches, the flavor is intact. When you
Mm.
brew in big batches like a lakh liters or 5 lakh liters, there is a
Right.
lot of losses. You
Yes.
can't exactly control the process correctly. So you end up doing different things at the end of it,
Mm.
like filtering to making sure it looks nice,
Right.
making sure the flavors are neutral. Here, we want flavors coming from the malt, we want flavors coming from the water, we
Right.
want flavors coming out from the hops, we want
Ah.
flavors coming out from the yeast, different kinds of yeast. We
Okay.
want flavors coming out during fermentation, after fermentation, and
Okay.
during maturation. And we want more flavors to come out if we have to add fruits in it. So it all depends on, it's like a chef's work.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there are different kinds of dal recipes throughout India. Like
Correct.
in Karnataka, we make a different dal. In
Yeah.
Andhra, they make a different kind of dal. They call pappu.
Papu. Yes. Yeah.
And in Tamil Nadu, they have chettinad style dal. Then
Right.
in Jammu, they have a different kind of dal. So it's the
Right.
same ingredient, but it's done so differently.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes drastically different. It's like comparing apples and oranges. I mean, they're fruits,
Right.
but they're different fruits. I mean, they're completely
Yes.
different.
Yeah.
So that is craft beer, and
Okay.
commercial beer is mostly for the masses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
There are pseudo commercial beers, there are pseudo craft beers. So there's a big portfolio. So
Right.
the bigger brands like Bira and all are pseudo craft beers. They are not
Mm.
exactly craft beers because they are doing it on a very, very big scale,
Okay.
but
Mm-hmm.
they portray themselves as, craft beer,
Craft
but they are
beers.
pseudo craft beers. They are not exactly craft beer. So the purists would not agree that
Mm,
Bira is a craft beer. They would
right.
say, no, those are not craft beer. But yeah, there is an audience for that. People love that brand. People love our brand. There are different audiences for different kinds of things.
Right.
So that is
Mm-hmm.
what a craft beer is. So
Okay.
there are so many different variants coming
Yes.
through.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and moving on to the earlier question,
Yes.
where was we? Oh my
Yes.
God! I forgot. Yeah.
When did you become a part of Grid and,
Yes. So
like, yeah.
the journey when the MD came in, he tasted my beers there. He was like, "Okay, we need to bring these beers, this culture, to Calcutta soil, because the Adda culture is already existent
Okay.
in
Mm-hmm.
Calcutta. So why don't we bring in and make sure everybody gets a piece of it?"
Yeah.
So we wanted to start off with the brew pub and then expand to a brewery where
Mm-hmm.
then we
Mm-hmm.
can send our beers out.
Right.
So we started branding our beers Caldera.
Mm.
So Cal being Calcutta and Dera being Adda in Hindi.
Oh,
So Caldera
okay.
came in like, and also Caldera means so after a volcanic eruption, the islands which form,
Uh-huh.
the rim of the island is called a caldera.
Oh,
So the
okay.
whole volcano sinks in, and the edge of that is called a caldera.
Right. Got it.
So,
Oh,
so then we
nice.
thought, okay, yeah, why don't we do this and let's begin our journey.
Right.
So we started with four variants, then it became six different beers, then it
Mm-hmm.
became four standard beers on tap, and one rotational, which is seasonal beer and festive beer,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other being a cider,
Ah,
which is not exactly a beer. It is fermented apple juice,
okay.
which is also quite popular in India.
Right.
So many different beverages we started,
Mm-hmm.
and the response was phenomenal. People were stoked, like we want more of it. So we
Right.
couldn't brew as much as the consumption was. We were always running out, but we always we had beers running from our taps. We never ran out of beers,
Wow.
which is a big achievement by itself.
Yes.
So people
Mm.
always got their beers and never ever complained like, "Hey, you've run out of beer."
Right.
And then we expanded. Then we thought, you know what? Let's start giving out our beers to other outlets. So
Mm-hmm.
that is where we are right now. That's why these tanks are. We'll be
Ah,
serving our beers to other outlets,
wow.
probably clubs and some other good pubs in Calcutta.
Super.
And then we are planning to bottle our beers
Mm.
at some point. So that is how it
Amazing.
started, from barren land to brew pub being constructed to an expansion of the brew pub to real microbrewery where we are going to keg and bottle our beers.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Amazing. I want to know what were the challenges that came by? I mean, pertaining to equipment, pertaining to the setup, pertaining to human resources. So while you were setting all of this up, I mean, as you said, you expanded, and now you're thinking about, putting out the beer in various other channels with respect to clubs, bars, and other places, and of course the bottled beer as well.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but I want to know what were the challenges that came by. I mean, either
Actually,
pertaining,
every step was a
yes,
challenge.
yeah,
Every step of the way is a challenge.
right,
It is all
yes,
about your experience, your interaction with other people, your interaction with manufacturing people.
right,
So, fortunately, I had made friends. I had a few people who were good with their work.
right,
So, one of my friends in RV who was mechanical
uh-huh,
uh, majors, and he
right,
started his small company called Arcane Engineering.
ah,
So he was quite helpful. Like he said, "Yeah, dude, I will, make tanks or fabricate tanks as per
wow,
your design. Don't worry about it."
wow,
Because every craft brewer has his own design for a
mm,
tank. Because only then that beer shines.
right,
Otherwise, it'll just taste something else. It'll not taste the way it's supposed to.
right, Wow.
So, and it has to be easier to clean. It has to meet certain welding specification. It has to
Hmm.
go through certain QA and QC, and then
Right.
the tanks are approved. So we had
Right.
like I had a huge list of things which I said, you know what, you have to go through all this. If you can
Hmm.
deliver a tank which can go through all this and meet my specification, then we can discuss something and I can
Right.
take you up with the MD. He said,
Wow.
I can definitely do it. Trust me on it. And I have all this certification. I
Hmm.
have this certified welder, this certified technicians with me. So I can
Right.
deliver the project what you're asking. So I said, okay, I'll take my chances because India, it's always switch and bait. They'll tell you, I'll give you product which is made of gold and then it'll turn out to be probably made of sand.
Yeah.
So it's always switch and bait, and you get frustrated working with Indian vendors
Right.
because they always want to make money and not connections.
Mm.
For
Oh,
me, it was
yes.
about making connections.
True.
Like,
True.
if you're good with me, I'm
Yeah.
going to help you out, whether you like it or not, because I'm going to just tell, hey, this guy helped me out. He has done this. This is the kind of
Right.
quality he delivers, or this is the vendor who gives me good quality raw materials. And my
Right.
beers have been phenomenal because of that. So the connections are very, very important. And
Yes.
slowly but steadily, people are understanding that it's
Hmm.
not about making money, selling in huge quantities and making money. It is about helping people out who are
Right.
starting very low, and then they're going to scale up, and then they're going to recommend you, and they're going to make you a hero as well
Absolutely.
along the journey.
Yes. Yes.
So there were so many challenges. We work with so many different companies, people. It's all switch and bait again.
Right.
We were trying to figure out how to integrate the equipments with electrical, how to integrate equipments with the a lot of sensors,
Right.
a lot of automation goes through it because you
Hmm.
have to calibrate your sensors to read the correct temperatures, correct pressure,
Yes.
and you don't want, since Calcutta is a humid environment, there is a lot of condensation. When I say condensation, when you have a cold glass of
Right.
beer or water, there is water on the outside of the glass.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So that is condensation.
Right.
So when I am dealing with minus 5 degrees, minus 3-degree coolants
Hmm.
to refrigerate my beer, there will be a lot of condensation on the pipes. So you want
Right.
to stop this condensation, otherwise the water will be dripping, there will be contamination, there will be mildew, there will be fungal growth, there will be whatnot, there will be ice formation on it, there
Hmm.
will be temperature losses.
Correct. Yeah.
So there's so many
Aspects.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you have to deal with fluid mechanics, you have to deal with
Wow.
thermodynamics, and you have to understand what altitude you're in, what is
Mm.
the humidity in your environment. So
Right.
so many factors, and how to install equipments in the right places. You can't just so when you're installing an AC unit, let's say at your home, there are two
Yes.
units, right? Like one is an outdoor unit, one is an indoor unit.
Right.
So both are connected. You can't just
Yes.
switch the outdoor unit to inside and the indoor unit to outside. So there's
Correct.
so many elements to it. People don't understand for
Right.
chilling. So we were trying to figure out how to integrate that. And I was designing from morning until night, like, no, get this done. The piping has to be this. There shouldn't be any bends. I want
Right.
this much thickness in the piping. I want the same kind of piping. So when you're trying to join two pipes, it has to match. It's like two
Right.
Lego blocks. You can't
Right.
take a bigger Lego block and try to fix in a smaller Lego block
Yeah.
somewhere which will not fit. It
Correct.
has to be uniform.
Mm.
So there's welding specification. After you weld, it has to be purged correctly. It has to weld
Right.
correctly. Otherwise, there'll be stainless steel like a candle dropping inside, and that will
Mm.
lead to contamination in the beverage.
Right.
So there's so many
Quite.
elements which we had to target, which we had to look into. So I was looking into every detail. So
Yeah.
people actually got frustrated with me here, like,
Mm.
oh my god, what amount of detail is there? I said, only this can deliver you good beers. That is
Yeah.
how it is.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
want good beers, the devil's in the details. If you think you can go away with doing whatever you want, be my guest.
Right.
Then they understood, okay, I agree, I agree.
Mm.
Then they
Wow.
was very supportive, like, yeah, do whatever you want, however you want, do it the way you want. They gave me a free hand, and till date, thankfully, touchwood, the brewery has not given up on us. It's worked perfectly, and we have brewed over 900 batches. So tomorrow will be our 900th batch, in fact.
Oh, wow.
So that's a big, big, huge achievement in
I
India.
know. Wow. I mean,
So
congratulations on
yeah,
that.
yeah, thank you. So it's just worked flawlessly. Of course, there are a few things which you have to tinker around, fix.
Ah,
It's like taking care of your car or any equipment.
right.
If you have any vehicle at home, you have to service it. You'll have to change the oil, ensure there's not much dust particles everywhere around it. Make sure all
Mm,
the wires are right. So it's very
right.
similar to that, but on a different scale.
Wow.
So yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. So though the challenges were insane amount of
Right.
challenge, and also we had to work on the civil aspect. We had to ensure. So there's a lot of CO2 emission coming
Right.
from fermentation. We had to ensure the CO2 is not locked inside the brewery. It has
Right.
to be. It has to go out, and
As an
people have to
exhaust.
get in. Yeah, good exhaust system. Then the flooring has to be perfect, industrial
Mm,
flooring,
right.
because we'll be dealing with a lot of cleaning agents which tend to scar the floor. So we
Ah,
had to deal with
okay.
that, and oh my god,
Right.
the drainage aspect of it. Then we had to ensure we had the right ETP in place so that we are not polluting the environment. We are not, just
Right.
dumping stuff in the drain. So we had to
Yeah.
think of so many aspects.
Oh, yes.
Fire safety. Oh God, I can just go on. Like, man, there's a huge list of it.
Right. I mean, so much goes into a glass of beer. So,
Yes, it
I
does. It
mean,
does.
wow.
But at the end of the day, you still get to enjoy it. So it's rewarding by itself. I get to drink every day, whenever I want. I can just say, hey, I have tasting session. You know what? Give me some time. So yeah,
Amazing. The perks of working out there. Yeah, the perks of being a brewer. Wow.
yeah. Perks of being a brewer.
Super.
Hmm.
Right. So Kaushik, could you tell us, are there any health benefits to drinking a craft beer?
Oh, good
Would love to
question.
know. I'm sure
Yeah,
the
yeah.
listeners
So
also would love to know about this.
yeah. So I cannot promote alcohol as a healthy beverage.
Yeah,
I'm not
absolutely.
supposed to as a
Yes.
brewer, and it's
It's a
as per the
disclaimer out
excise.
there.
You're
Yeah.
not supposed to. Yeah, you're not supposed
Yes.
to call it a health drink
Yes.
because people go overboard. Hey,
Yeah.
he
Oh.
just told me it's healthy, and I'm going to
I
drink
know.
up. No,
I know.
that is not how it works.
Yes.
So there is a lot of when we are brewing, we are using the best quality ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
So we are trying to keep the nutritional aspect intact. We're not filtering out. So the
Okay.
yeast, which is uh, there in the fermentation, has a lot of micronutrients. Your
Mm.
B12, your there is a lot of
Wow.
histamines in the beer.
Okay.
Then there is a lot of tannins. There is lot of there's calcium. There is and also beer is hydrating. It's the only beverage which rehydrates your body and not dehydrates. The only beverage
Dehydrates.
which rehydrates your body. Because when you drink a lot of copious amounts of whiskey or vodka or anything, you
Mm.
get dehydrated, and that's when you have hangovers.
Right.
So when you have a glass of beer or two, you don't get hangovers. You're actually rehydrated.
Yes. Yeah.
So it is the only alcoholic beverage in the world which rehydrates your body. Then there is lots of vitamins in it, lots of
Mm.
and beer is actually considered liquid bread.
Mm.
So you
Yeah.
can just drink beer and survive. But again, I'm not going to promote that.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
don't quote me anywhere.
No, it's a
Yeah,
disclaimer. Yes.
yeah. Disclaimer, especially you audience.
All right.
So
Okay.
it's called liquid bread because basically you're using the same ingredients what goes into bread:
Mm.
flour, water, and
Right.
yeast. So instead of flour,
Right.
we are using the malt, which is the earlier version of flour. So flour is
Right.
a processed version of malt, and malt is how it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we are using that to extract all the nutrients from the malt,
Mm.
including the sugars, including the proteins and whatnot from it. And then that
Right.
is sent to the fermenter to ferment. So
Hmm.
you will not have any protein aspect in beer, and also there is empty calories from alcohol. But the myth of drinking beer and gaining a beer belly is a myth.
Oh, it's a myth. All
It is a
right.
myth.
Okay.
So if you're eating French fries along with beer, then what? That's not going to give you a belly. Are you kidding me? So
Right.
it's all about drinking the right amount, not
Yes.
going overboard.
Okay.
So you can't just say I'm going to eat junk food and I'll not have cholesterol. So
Right.
you will gain a belly, you will get whatever you have to. So
Yes.
there is not much calories in beer. There is very little sugar present in beer, and
Right.
sugar is not like your processed sugar which comes in sachets
Right.
or packs. It
Right.
is malt-based sugars, and that
Mm.
is whole sugars. So when
Right.
I say we are using whole grains or whole malts,
Mm-hmm.
it is not processed. We
Yeah.
are not processing and removing only the sugar aspect of it. There's so many elements in that sugar which is also being added in the beer, which is benefiting you.
All right.
So you
Hmm.
can't just say, and yeast is going to eat up all those sugars. So it's all fermentable sugars,
Right.
which the yeast eats up, and whatever little remains is hardly anything. It's probably like
Hmm.
quarter teaspoon of sugar in 500
Right.
ml of beer. That is the amount of calories you can calculate from it. But
Right.
there's so many other things which also get into your system. So
Hmm.
those things are not thought of. They are only thinking, oh, there is gluten, there is this, there is that,
Yeah.
which is going to
Right.
affect me. So it's okay if you eat kulcha and naan and you complain about beer. Like
Yeah.
no, if you're going to say I want to be healthy, I want to ensure I don't want to have this, I have gluten intolerance, then read up.
Ah.
It's not just beer. There's
Yes.
so many things which has gluten. Your biscuits, your
Right.
malt-based drinks, Bonvita, Complan, everything has
Right.
it. So you don't
Right.
complain there, but you say, "Oh, beer
Yeah.
is unhealthy."
Yes.
If I compete with all these health drinks, I think this is the most healthiest drink there is
Mm.
because it's fermented naturally. The only drawback is it has alcohol.
Right.
But
Right.
there has been recent study where people in the Olympics consume non-alcoholic beers.
Hmm.
Why?
Okay.
Because it hydrates their body. There's a lot
Right.
of vitamins which go in, which
Right.
is easily absorbed in the body,
Ah.
unlike artificially synthesized vitamins or anything. Because it's easily absorbed, because it's in a liquid format.
Hmm.
Unlike
Okay.
your tablets, which is in powder format and it is artificially synthesized.
Right.
So, what is coming from nature is well preserved in our beers, and we preserve it to our best of our knowledge. We keep it cold. There's no
Hmm.
oxidation. There is no denaturing of those. So that's
Wow.
why I would call it healthy in terms of
Right.
nutrients in it. But
Right.
like I said, the disclaimer is don't consider it as a health drink, and
Yes.
there should be some limitation to it. Like you should have a drink or two and not go overboard.
True.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Wow. Well said. I mean, thanks for those insights out there. And
yeah,
of course, we do have the disclaimer.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So, Kaushik, how is the Indian market? I mean, how has been the Indian market for craft beers with respect to the policies and the licenses which you were talking about, and also with respect to the target customers? So, how has it been?
So initially, people wouldn't understand what beer is, and as
Okay.
brewers, as startups, we won't understand how the policies work.
Hmm.
So we usually end up, taking help from outside people who are consultants and stuff
Right.
who try to
Right.
help us gain the uh, license, who tell us
Hmm.
what to do with the license. But
Correct.
as you progress, you end up learning about it
Yes.
because initially you have too many things on your plate and you can't just focus on one thing, which is licensing part.
Right.
So you would want to hire someone who know about excise policies, who can
Correct.
get you the license quickly instead of you running around government offices.
True.
Because once you go there, they know you're a rookie, you have no idea. they'll say,
Right.
sir, this much charge, and you'll end up paying thinking,
Ah,
okay, he'll help me out, or this guy help me out, or that guy will help me out.
right.
But you end up being a fool out there. So you have to go
Mm,
through people who know that office, who know the policies.
right.
And there are a lot of fake consultants who say, oh, I can get you in a month and I can get you in a year. Now,
Right.
if you start the journey, it will take you 2 years just to get the license,
Yeah.
and 1 year to just to set it up. So
Hmm.
it's a long, long haul. So you can't
Okay.
just say, I want to brew beer. Tomorrow I will set up a microbrewery. No, it doesn't work that way.
Hmm.
It has to be a
Right.
lot of study. You have to discuss with a lot of people. You have to meet up with a lot of vendors. You have to meet up with a lot of consultants. You have
Right.
to meet up with a lot of people,
Hmm.
architects. You have to meet up with a lot of people just to understand what goes into the policy. Now, there are restrictions where you need 10,000 square feet of space in Bangalore just to
Hmm.
set up a brew pub. That is the
Right.
minimum requirement,
Right.
and there is height restriction for that place. It has to be 12 feet or above.
Okay.
So all these were there. I think they removed it recently. There is a
Hmm.
union which is formed, Craft Brewing Association of India.
Right.
So the more numbers you have, it's easier to tackle situation. When you
Hmm.
start off, when we all started off, there was nobody. There are
Right.
people, we were all running around just to get the license. Like, please give
Hmm.
us the license. Please give us
Yeah.
the license. Please give us. The moment you say license, they'll say, do you have this license? Do you have trade license? Do you have your bar license in place? Do you have
Right.
the fire department giving you NOC? Do you have the police giving you no objection certificate? Do you have uh, the pollution control giving you no objection
Right.
certificate? Only then you come to me. So you have to run
Hmm.
around other departments. Then you have
Yes.
to. They will tell you, get me this. Show me this,
Right.
and then they'll come down. So there are so many layers of
Right.
licenses involved. You can't just say there is one license involved. Then there is
Right.
FSSI coming through now. FSSI is entered into handling how your beverage should be. So there are
Hmm.
new norms which have come through. Now they're
Right.
telling the yeast shouldn't be there in the product, but we all actually fought back and said, see, we are using a natural product. There is no harm when you
Right.
consume it, unlike the corporate beers where they filter out. So they thought that is the guideline. You have to filter
Yeah.
everything out. So we said, no, we
Hmm.
don't want to filter it out. If I filter it out, I'm filtering all my flavor also out. Flavor is coming
Hmm.
naturally into the beverage. I don't want to add it later on
Right.
to
Correct.
artificial means.
Yes.
So then they understood. They're like, okay, you guys can do. If you're a craft brewer, you are allowed to have this much CFM of yeast in it.
Hmm.
So CFM is the unit of yeast, like how
Okay.
many amount of yeast can be present
Used.
inside
Okay.
the beverage. Yeah.
All right.
So there's so many things which come into play. You'll have to understand
Right.
all these and
Hmm.
then start your business.
Wow.
Uh, and then so yeah, there's so many aspects to it.
Yes.
Just the
Wow.
licensing part. That is the amount of stuff you'll have to go through, understand. But if you want to make your life simpler by getting in reputed source
Hmm. Right.
consultants on board, which is
Right.
getting the license and everything, understanding where people have delivered equipments, go there, visit, see for yourself how it's going, how the beers are coming out
Right.
from that equipment, how the
Right.
brewer is using, is it easy to handle. So what happens is investors think, oh, I'll invest 20 lakhs, I'll get this equipment from China.
Yeah.
It's not like they'll be using it. They'll hire
Right.
someone else
Right.
who has to
Yeah.
use it,
Right.
and that person will do it once, twice.
Hmm.
Third time is frustrated. He or she is frustrated. And like, I can't use this equipment. This is so cumbersome.
Right.
It is not simple. There is so many aspects to it. Not able to deliver
Hmm.
the right beverage I wanted, and I'm not happy giving out what I'm giving. I'm just
Yes.
doing this because I have to pay my bills end of the day.
Hmm.
So they are so frustrated, they're so furious when it comes to that. And investors think they'll just hire someone because they have done a project in some big company or some place here. They
Right.
think they can just deliver the equipment. No,
Hmm.
there each brewer has his own specification, his or her specification. They
Right.
want that so that they can brew their beer.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you want that kind of equipment, you want to call those guys and brew beer, or as an investor, if you're invested in that equipment, go ahead, brew. Go ahead.
right,
Get to
right.
understand how difficult it is to brew a beverage and a
Mm,
consistent product.
wow.
So yeah, so there's so many aspects to it.
Yes. I mean, yeah, I mean that's quite exhaustive and I
Yeah,
mean
yeah,
as you mentioned yeah, it's good to have someone who knows everything about it so that you consult when you're just a rookie, when you're just starting off, and then of course you will of course learn as the time goes by. Kausha, could you tell us like how's
yeah,
been the
yeah, yeah.
customer base? I mean, I'm not sure like back then when you started off, like
Yeah,
probably in 2010 or 2012, and up until now. Are there more people wanting to try out, new recipe of a beer or craft beers per se rather
yeah,
than
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
the
yeah.
usual mundane beers, and also that gets me to the
Mm-hmm.
question, could you also let us know as to a unique recipe which you tried for a beer and people loved
Yeah,
it, so could you
yeah,
tell us both of these? Yes.
yeah, yeah. So the customers, when they came in, they were skeptical. We had sampler sets arranged for them.
Right. Yeah.
So we were giving out free samplers so that they get to understand
Hmm.
what our beers are.
Right.
And it was going in like nearly 90 ml samples. Like if you just
Mm.
finished those samplers, you would be drunk. Like there was enough
Oh.
beer in all those samples put together to match a glass. I mean, a pint of beer.
Right.
So we were
Oh.
giving out so that they understood what a beverage is, and I was taking trainings to
Mm.
all the staff here, the service staff, the kitchen staff, the housekeeping, everyone. I said I want
Wow.
everyone on board. They were like, why? Why do these people have to know? No, when you're part of a brew pub, everyone should know what our beers are.
Yeah.
Just I don't
Yeah.
want this guy doesn't not knowing what our beer is, this guy knowing beer, this guy not knowing. No, I want everyone.
Yes.
Even
Yeah.
whoever is in
Yeah.
the bar, whoever is serving, smokes, whoever is part of the company has to be present for my training session. They were all like, okay,
Right.
surprised, but that helped. So they were like,
Yes.
the hookah guy was telling, try this beer with this hookah, and this beer goes well with this. The kitchen guy was telling, yeah, go with this beer with this. This will pair well with this beer. So it all
Right.
helps eventually. So you have to
Absolutely. Yeah.
ensure you educate everyone around you. The whole company is in the same boat. It is not an
Mm.
easy task. It might
I
sound
know.
simple, but it is not an easy task
Yes.
because most of the people are from a class where they just understand how to walk like this. When I say and try to inculcate beer into this, they're like, no, I'll just walk straight. So
Yeah.
if I'm in the kitchen department, I will make excellent French fries, and I don't know what beer is. I don't know what goes well with it. I don't care what it is. But once you give
Right.
them samples, make them taste, they are automatically intrigued. Like, oh, my company beer. Okay, I'm a part of it. And I've tasted it. The brewmaster is personally explaining me what a beverage is. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Oh, awesome! I want to be part of this journey.
Wow.
So you have to ensure you do the correct amount of training. You have the right amount of knowledge sharing with the right people, and
Yes.
you do a mock-up session. Like, okay, I want this beer. What do you know about it? So I used to just randomly ask people, "Hey, what is this beer?" They're like,
Okay.
"Okay, okay, this is that beer. Oh, this is that beer. Oh, that is this beer."
Right.
So it just ended up like so. Even if I wake them up in their sleep and ask that beer, they would explain what that beer is.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So just I wanted to ensure people knew about their the product. So
Yes.
that helped to directly connect with the customer. So customers got really connected with the service staff, and the
Yes.
service has been impeccable here.
Hmm.
People always say, hey dude, I wanted that beer what you suggested last time. Hey dude, I want this beer what you suggested. And that
Right.
worked because I can't be running around telling all the customers what beer
Hmm.
works well with your palate or the food you're
Right.
ordering. So that is very
Correct.
important, educating them, and also me on the floor meeting
Ah.
customers, telling everyone, having a drink with them, socializing with them. just
Wow.
just having fun with them.
Yes.
So those things helped improve the customer base, and
Right.
people started traveling. They started discovering other beer joints, tasting the
Ah,
beer there, and coming back and telling, "Hey, I tasted that kind of beer. I'm tasting this beer. I'm tasting that beer." So
right.
the base started increasing.
Wow.
So they wanted different beverages, like, hey, what is the next beer will be on tap? What are you going to brew? Let me know. I want to taste it before anyone else tastes it. And
Right.
the media is behind me, all the newspaper people, like, hey, we want to publish it before anyone drinks. I'm like,
Wow.
okay, okay, yeah, yeah, okay, okay. I have so much work now. I just got too
Right.
many things on board.
Yes.
They're like, okay, and then they start publishing about beer. They start writing about it. And they wanted to take pictures. They wanted to put it up on their
Wow.
papers, on social media, on Instagram. The influencers wanted to know more about it. They came in,
Right.
used to take in videos of the brewery, talking to me,
Uh-huh.
telling people like, hey, this place is awesome. Look at how they brew. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So you have to be open with everything.
Mm.
Just can't, shut
Right.
yourself and say, I'm going to brew beer. I'm going to,
Yeah.
show off. Like, I know everything here. So you have to be very
Right.
open, mingle with everyone. So, of course, I mean, most of people in India are actually very introvert. I was an introvert too. I mean, I was not
Yeah.
so difficult for me to mingle with people because we come from
Right.
very orthodox families where they say, hey, this is the community, this is where it is, this is the line we draw.
Correct.
So getting out of that comfort zone was very important. And then,
Yes.
so yeah, educating people around you,
Mm.
asking them to be part of the journey, and moving them along with you is very important. If you just think I'll just go ahead, like really far ahead, and these guys are lagging
Yeah.
behind, that's never going to work. You have to take the whole company forward. It's not just you
Exactly.
going forward. So you have to work
Right.
as a team. It's very important to understand their emotions. You want to understand
Mm.
their sentiments. You want to work with them. You want to ensure they're friendly to you. They are like a family to you. It is an extended family, the whole crew. So you have to
Yes.
ensure you treat them like family, and then the
Right.
business will grow by itself. People will learn about the beverage, and you
Correct.
interacting with everyone. And there will be times where you get to meet real craft beer enthusiasts, like real cicerones who
Ah.
have studied about beer, who
Oh,
have
wow.
learned how to serve beer, how to understand beer, and that's rewarding because you don't get to meet such kind of people. And when you meet them,
Right.
they are also intrigued, like, oh, I didn't know about this. Oh, I'm glad you told me about it. I will go research about it. And then, yeah,
Right.
it's only a handful of them in India who are probably not even handful. So you
Yeah.
get to meet them, and they are so happy to meet you, and they want to drink more of your beer. They talk about your beers elsewhere. They talk about other beers here. It's
Super.
fun. It's not like a competition per se. I mean, there's so many good breweries in India right now. So
Right.
we always compete in a way where we want to ensure we are giving out good beers
Mm-hmm.
in a
Uh-huh.
way that even they appreciate as well as we appreciate and the audience appreciate. So it becomes
Absolutely.
like that.
Yeah.
It becomes a big community where we are all helping out each other. And that is how a brewing community is. In fact, I'm very
Yes.
grateful that we have such a good, vibrant brewing community in India. And
Wow.
there's so many budding brewers, so many businessmen who don't treat the brewers or brewing professionals in a way they treat other other people there. So they are always honored to meet them. They just love
Wow.
spending time with them. So yeah, it's a mix of everything which will help you educate
Yes.
people around you.
Absolutely.
And not to mention the influence of social media and marketing and
Yes.
whatnot. Yeah,
Right. Wonderful. I mean,
yeah,
amazing.
and yeah, and you were talking about
Unique
one of the
recipes.
unique ingredients
Yes.
or recipes which I did several. In fact, we I made bourbon oak cider, which was
Ah.
So the oak chips came from bourbon barrel. So we cut it off and then we added into the fermenter. And that
Uh-huh.
bourbon flavor was so good in the cider. People were like, "What is this? This is so good." People loved it. And then there
Wow.
was this time where we used Bengal quince, which is
Okay.
what we call as mm, what do you call them? I think they call bale here. They
Okay.
call
Uh-huh.
bale, which tastes similar to mango, lychee, and passion fruit. It's like a
Ah,
mix of all these.
all
So
right.
it's good for your tummy during the summers. So it's a seasonal
Ah,
fruit. So I
yes. Uh-huh.
incorporated that into the beer, but
Wow.
extracting the fruit pulp from the fruit was a real challenge because it's
Ah,
very fibrous. There's a lot of
right.
fiber in it. You have to
Right.
pulp it out, get it
Hmm.
out, and you can't exactly put it in a blender because the seeds inside
Okay.
tend to split and give bitterness
Hmm.
in the beverage. So you can't just put it anywhere and just try to pulp it out. So you had to hand pulp it. It was
Oh.
really handcrafted. That beer was really, really handcrafted. To hand pulp it,
Okay.
pasteurize it, and then I had to incorporate it into the beer.
Wow.
And that even got me a silver medal in one of the beer tastings. So there
Oh,
was a
wow.
lot of hard work with that, and that was fun. And we also got a gold medal for one of our blondes. So that was one
Hmm.
of my ace recipes back during homebrew. So I
Wow.
incorporated lemongrass into a pale ale, and it was amazing. That beer came out really, really well. It was so well balanced,
Wow.
and people used to drink copious amounts of it. And then whoever tasted it loved it. Like, hey, I can drink a lot of this beer. So it was very refreshing.
Amazing.
So yeah, there was lot of good beverages we have done. We have done most of the breweries have done this. We have done a smoked malt beer.
Hmm.
So we smoked
Right.
the malt.
Ah.
We had our own smoker which we constructed DIY.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, during the pandemic, it broke down. It was in the
Ah.
rain and just got
Right.
busted. So
Right.
we are trying to do another one.
Hmm.
And then we smoked the malt, we incorporated into the beer, and that was amazing.
Wow.
It tasted like there was notes of what can I say? I'm not sure here, since you being a vegetarian. Notes of bacon and sausage
All
coming through,
right.
but there was no bacon and sausage in it. There was
Right.
no bacon and sausage, but the notes of those were so prominent,
Ah.
the smoky
Okay.
notes. It was not
Right.
exactly like your agarbatti or incense stick notes.
Got
It was
it.
more of a slow smoked
Hmm.
meat, dry aged smoke notes, and it was
Wow.
amazing. That came out really well. And then
Super.
we did something called as a smrika.
Uh-huh.
So this
Okay.
is juniper berry, which is fermented. So I had
Hmm.
my own twist to it. We used some malt and we used some honey and we used some matcha in it. And
Oh, wow.
so the hue of the beer, of that beverage was really like this neon green. So people
Okay.
were like,
Wow.
"What the hell is this? I want more of it. I want more of it." I'm like, "Okay," and it just got sold out. And
Wow.
then we incorporated obviously mango, and that's been done throughout India again.
Right.
We made a mango amber ale, and that was phenomenal.
Hmm.
And then we made so many. We made a pumpkin pie beer.
Oh,
So
wow.
we actually made pumpkin pies and added into the beer, and
Okay.
that was amazing. Actually, it turned out really well.
Wow.
Then I have one stout which has single origin vanilla coming from Kerala and
Oh,
single origin uh, cocoa beans, cacao beans coming from a
ah.
friend in Mysore.
Oh my. Oh wow.
So we are infusing those into the stout,
Hmm.
and the response for that is phenomenal.
Super.
So there's so much variations you can do as a brewer, and I
Yeah.
still have so many ideas in my head which I want to incorporate. But of course, time and tanks and pandemic, is all inversely
Yes.
proportional to all this, so I'm not able to churn out whatever I
Right.
wanted to.
Right. I have a
Yeah,
question out there. So when you do these recipes, do they stay with you or do you share it with people so that they can also try? I mean, how does that work? I have this question.
they mostly stay with me
Okay.
because it's not like even if I give out a recipe, they can do it.
It's
It's
with
not
respect to the
because
quantities, the proportion,
yes,
and
the
when the
proportion,
process
yeah,
and all of
when
that.
correct.
Ah,
It's not like they can do
okay.
it,
Got it.
but I can help them design the recipe. I can tell them, hey, use this at this
Mm,
point, it will help you
got
out.
it. Got it.
Because end of the day, you want them to be creative
Yeah.
and not just hand out a silver platter and say, hey, dude, this is what it is. And
Yes.
also, my company would restrict something like that. Like, why are
Yeah.
you giving out
Right.
company property like that?
Exactly.
So, even though I want to be open about it, the management might not want to agree. Like,
Hmm.
no, let's keep it to ourselves because we are some here because of our recipe. We
Yes.
want to ensure we are
Correct.
consistent, everything. And
Super.
but they are also open, like, yeah, you can give out recipes if you want to, but
Right.
yeah, make sure we are consistent with the product. And we
Yes.
actually gave out our Caldera Hefeweizen, which is the most popular recipe,
Ah,
as a kit to one of the vendors. So they are
okay.
selling it as a kit where you can buy that kit and brew the beer at home if you have that kind
Ah,
of equipment.
okay. All
So
right.
it's called Brew Nation. So you
Mm,
can check it up.
super.
Then so yeah, you there's always a lot of cross platform when you're an entrepreneur where
Yes.
you are talking to different entrepreneurs, different people, and they want to highlight something of yours there, and we want to highlight something of
Yeah.
theirs here.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of cross platform things happening,
Cool. I
and
mean, that's
they
nice.
wanted to promote our brand in a way where people can make that into a household brand where they
Right.
can brew that beer and taste our beer probably anywhere in India because of that
Right.
kit. So we were like,
Yes.
yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So we are
Super.
open and not open. It's not like we don't want to share.
Yeah.
But if we get to know these guys are going to make business out of it, yeah, I mean, you have do
Absolutely.
your own diligence and make a
Yeah.
business out of it. If you're trying to
Right.
extract something out of me, I know, man, stay away.
I know.
Yeah, yeah,
All right. Super. Got that.
yeah.
All right. So Kaushik, what are the future plans? Or how do you see, craft beer meandering its way through the coming generations? So what are the future plans?
Oh, there will be a huge. It'll be a point where people will start drinking. So I think the current generation are already experimenting different beverages.
Right.
That's why
Yeah.
we have so many new craft drinks
Mm-hmm.
coming through India. Like there are different
Right.
craft gins. There is meads, which is coming, which is fermented honey, a
Oh,
beverage.
yeah.
It's fermented apple juice beverages, cider. There's so many different radical beverages coming through. There's a
Right.
big explosion of probiotics, which is kombucha.
Mm.
Then
Yeah.
there is lifestyle drinks, which is coming through, which is your seltzers, which is low calorie alcoholic beverages. Then
Right.
there is a lot of there's so many craft drinks coming in. The
Mm.
craft soda, the craft tonics. There are
Right.
because the bar scene has exploded. People want to experiment. They want to taste different things. They want to understand which is good for their body. Where
Correct.
people are not using rubbish. So I'm not buying some rubbish and drinking. People are
Yeah.
getting aware,
Correct.
and people want to be aware because why do you have to consume poisonous food in your system? You
Right.
want good stuff in your system. You're paying money for it. If
Yes.
I'm paying x amount of money, I would rather drink something which will not cost me another y amount of money in the hospital. I'd
Right.
rather consume something which is a little more a little more expensive, but it's good.
Yes.
It's natural, it's
Right.
nice, it's not going to harm me, it's well researched on.
Hmm.
So we want to consume such things because there is a lot of transformation happening in the Indian community due to internet, due to social media, due to many things. The
Correct.
lifestyle changes are immense right now. It's changing drastically.
Right.
So there is a big boom in the craft beer market, craft
Mm-hmm.
drinks market, any market. Like if you want to
Mm-hmm.
do a startup, this is the right time to do it. Of course, the
Yes.
pandemic has slowed it down, no doubt.
Right. Right.
But if you have an idea which you say it is good, it is scalable, it is not so cost effective, it is easy to procure, people will appreciate it, then you should go ahead.
Right.
And people will appreciate it. If you already know, if you have already done your homework of people appreciating it, then they will buy it. They will buy
Yes.
it. But
Yeah.
you have to market it in that specific segment. Now, you can't say, I will sell craft beer to villages.
Right.
Like they have no idea what is craft beer, let alone beer.
Yes.
So you can't
Yes.
just market it in different platforms where you feel that will work.
Right.
So, but you can incorporate villages into craft beer. Like you can bring in people from villages and train them and be part of your manpower,
Right.
and they will in turn tell their villages like, "Hey,
Yeah.
this is what I'm doing. I'm not doing bad. You might think I'm making alcohol, but it is not what
Right.
you seem. I don't even drink at my workplace. There are a lot of
Yes.
ethics involved. There's a lot of
Right.
good materials which we use, and they'll be like, "Oh, astonished. Okay, it's
Yes.
not Sarai or Enda, what we call, which is local or act, which
Right.
you're doing. You're doing something different. You're ensuring people are transitioning into a better segment. Like the
Right.
whole population, you're educating everyone into a better segment where there is healthy drinking and not uh, drinking without moderation and just getting drunk and acting, being a social element to it.
Right. Right.
So that changes
Absolutely.
are happening, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of potential. I want to stress upon it again that there's a lot of potential for new beverages. There
Wow.
is so many people who have started appreciating coffee and tea, which was just a normal beverage in the morning. But now people are understanding
Right.
there's so much to it. There's cold brew, there is teas which have to be brewed at a particular temperature, which I
Correct.
also incorporate in some of my beers, which I'm trying to experiment. So there's so much to learn in different beverages.
Right. Right. Super.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Talking about the pandemic, so how has it been for you in the pandemic, considering, we had a couple of lockdowns and all of those things?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And how has it worked for you in both in a positive and a negative way?
So there has been a lot of stuff which happened during the pandemic. So the first wave, which the first lockdowns were
Right.
brutal on us. Like the whole F&B industry thought it's the end
Yeah.
of the world for us. I think there is no revival of F&B. There is
Right.
no traveling is going to be a big hassle. There will be restrictions in flight. There will be restriction in tourism. So I don't think we are going to ever come out of it.
Yeah.
So that was a huge, huge problem. The first lockdowns were a real disaster for us.
Mm.
So during that lockdown, thankfully, our mother company here, which is called Chemtex,
Uh-huh. Okay.
they gave us some light, and we had enough manpower to help them out too. Because
Right.
since them being a chemical manufacturing company, they were already into sanitizers, they were already
Okay.
into cleaning chemicals, antiviral coating chemicals.
Got it.
So what we did was I retrofitted few things and made sure my brewery was manufacturing those.
Ah,
So all
okay.
my manpower was utilized there. All the manpower
Right.
from the grid was utilized there,
Right.
and we were we were doing really good. We were doing
Yeah.
three shifts, two shifts,
Ah,
just ensuring the government here, the state government of West Bengal,
right.
were getting enough sanitizers. The police here, the army, everyone were getting enough sanitizers. So we were doing a lot of social work, and we were getting some grants and some money from the government, which we were able to sustain. So we did that for a very long time, and then the lockdowns got lifted, and
Okay.
then again, since we there was so dearth of sanitizers during that time, like
Right.
every person wanted to invest in making sanitizers. They wanted to make sanitizers, bottle them, sell them at a very cheap rate.
Right.
So then business dropped, and then the lockdowns got lifted again. So we were back into brewing, and then
Right.
we got special permissions from the government to
Right.
bottle our beers in growlers, which is a
Ah.
2 liter format.
Okay.
So it's like you come in with that and you fill the beer and go back home and
Ah.
drink. You don't have
Okay.
to sit here and drink. So
Right.
that was adopted throughout India, throughout all the brew pubs were trying to
All right.
get some business out of it, and
Mm-hmm.
also ensure none of the staff were affected, nor were the consumers.
Right.
So we were trying to give out all that, and whatever stock was what stock was left, we were trying to empty it out. And there was a lot of people who wanted to enjoy craft beer back then too. So craft
Right.
beer will always be there. That's why we wanted to start bottling. So we are
Yes.
going to start bottling at some point. We acquired all the
Right.
license, almost acquired all the licenses for it.
Wow. Super.
So it's all about changing the game. If you're thinking, okay, this is going to happen, how to move forward, you have to think 5 steps ahead
Right.
and then work on it. So when we say you're drinking a 12-year-old whiskey or a 15-year-old or an 18-year-old, how are you even getting it?
Yeah.
Correct? It's an 18-year-old whiskey. So the forecast should be such that
Yeah.
I will have this kind of clientele, this kind of consumption. There'll be a growth.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be a spurt in there
Right.
where I'll be able to sell this much amount of it. That's why you distill and keep it in warehouses.
Mm.
So that is the kind of forecast you should have. You should
Right.
understand what is the shelf life of your beverage too. How to keep them safe, how to not ensure they get oxidized, how to ensure all your raw materials are stored correctly.
Right.
So yeah, there is some amount of losses involved in it, but end of the day you survive.
Yeah.
I mean, all
Yeah.
businesses have to survive because it's all about resilience and
Exactly.
how tenacious you are. Yeah.
True.
If you're telling, oh no, forget it, then it's forget it. It's the end of it. You
Yes.
have to be tenacious. You have to live through it. I mean, who is not suffering
Yeah.
during the pandemic? If
True.
you're just complaining about yourself, who is not suffering?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everybody is suffering. Every
Yes.
business has got a hit. Every person has suffered, and I was in fact stuck here in Calcutta. My whole family was in Bangalore for nearly six
Ah.
months.
Oh my.
So if you
Okay.
just give up on everything, then you just give up. It's not
Right.
about that. It's
Yes.
about being tenacious, being resilient, and fight through.
Yes.
And
Totally.
also being safe and ensuring you follow COVID protocols,
Right.
understand how to safeguard yourself. Everything is important.
Absolutely.
So I had COVID protocols for my brewery and my glassware even before COVID hit. So I have,
Yes.
yeah. So I was following all these European and American habits of hygiene to how to maintain
Right.
glassware, how to maintain your tap system, everything. So
Right.
I've never had complaints from customers saying I've had a bad day drinking your beer till date.
Right. Right.
So why?
Wow.
Because it is about hygiene. You have to ensure you have to take care of your product end to end, not
Right.
just brewing and forgetting what the customer experiences. So
Yes.
until how the customer experiences, it's very important. That is until there you have your uh,
You have
eye
to do
on
your
it.
part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to do your part.
Yes.
You have to ensure the customer has the best experience.
Right.
So even my glassware is designed that way where it cleans correctly. And
Hmm.
all my glassware is coming from Germany.
Wow.
So I have a sterilizing unit for the glassware,
Hmm.
and I have like 3 4 people stationed there who clean the glassware, who remove any lipstick marks, this mark, this
Ah.
mark. So the lipsticks are such a pain. Oh my god. Oh god.
You can't blame the woman. Come on.
Oh my god. Those don't go. Like my glassware has lipstick. I was like, dude, why the lipstick?
They are your customers.
Yeah, I know. They have. So there is no equipment which can remove lipstick. Can you believe that? So you have to actually
Really?
literally go through the glass and just clean it, scrub it off from it. And I have used so many different products just to get rid of lipstick, and there is nothing in the world, nothing. I think the
Wow.
only thing which is going to survive after a pandemic are lipstick marks and cockroaches. Oh God.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Oh, that
they
that
just don't
was
go.
quite an interesting fact. Oh wow.
Yeah,
I'm sure the ladies will love it.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Oh God. Last it doesn't. I mean, so there are oils in the lipstick also. So what happens
Right.
is it makes the beer lose its head. When I say head, it's the foam on the top. It just dies out.
Ah,
So
okay.
all your oils in your lips, like your lip balms or
Right.
whatever you're eating during the time, kills the
Yeah.
head. And then
Ah,
the beer start to look flat. It doesn't taste the way it's supposed to. So,
okay.
but lipsticks again, initial, yeah, those are your real which is going to survive the pandemic.
Wow. Interesting, amazing. All
Hmm.
right. Okay. We're coming to the last question. So yeah,
Yeah.
since we're talking about the pandemic, well-being is of utmost importance for all of us, even more so now. So I want to know, what is your well-being routine like, and what do you indulge in apart from brewing?
So yeah, good question. So the initial, I mean, the first wave, the first lockdowns were brutal on me too. I mean, I had
Yeah.
no idea. So then it took me some time to get into yoga. Then I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to get my team into breathing exercises.
Right.
Then I was ensuring they're eating correctly, they're, in top shape and they're going home at the right time.
Right.
Because we had so much work, even
Mm-hmm.
during the pandemic, since we were manufacturing the sanitizers during
Right.
that time.
Yeah.
So they were scared. They were literally scared, like, what if I get infected and
Yeah.
I continue that infection back home? I have children, I have my mom, I have my wife, I have my elders in
Right.
another room. And we, being from an underprivileged family, what do we do if they're all in the same
Exactly.
place? So
Mm.
thankfully, none of them got COVID during that time. None of them.
Ah.
First wave,
Mm-hmm.
we were so cautious. We were very safe. Everybody wearing masks. They were wearing gloves. They were doing whatnot to ensure everything. We were
Right.
fumigating our place every few hours. There
Mm.
were sanitizers everywhere, and we had stations where they had to walk through sanitizer sprays,
Ah.
showers.
Okay.
So none
Got
of
it.
them got infected. There were so many people coming in to pick up stuff. So that was really well done by the Chemtech Specialty Limited and our MD
Mm-hmm.
Gaurav, Mr. Gaurav Karnani.
Right.
So the business aspect of it was well taken care of. Our business head, Mr. Tanmoy Roy. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody were getting full salaries. None of them had a pay cut.
Right.
We were all working more than 9 hours, 8 hours, just to ensure we were all taken
Right.
care of. And everybody were really happy working with us. They were getting food, they were getting our own transport, where we had our own cars we were transporting.
Right.
And the MD's family were sweet enough to lend their own cars, like, take
Ah.
this, make sure you
Yeah.
drop all the people who are working for us. We should ensure their families are taken care of
Correct.
first, and then we will ensure taking care of our sanitizers. So
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of support from all around. We were all helping each other out, and I was
Right.
ensuring all my teammates were well fed. Any issues with them were taken care of, and if
Right.
they wanted to go back to their native, I was letting them go. So they
Mm-hmm.
were really happy. They were very happy, and they all stuck around even after the pandemic. So that should show, like, we
Yeah.
didn't lose much staff even after the pandemic, because they were really grateful for how we took care of them.
Right.
And then me, when it comes to me, I was always trying to be on video calls with all my friends, watching Netflix, then
Right.
trying to cook something. I was actually a very good cook back in the university when I was in Scotland. People used
Okay.
to love my food. All this French classmates and French roommates and Greek roommates, I had
Right.
Chinese roommates. Everyone were like digging into my food, like, this food is so good. And the face used to turn red because obviously Indian
The
spices
spice.
involved. Yeah, yeah. They were like, this food is good, and choke themselves to death. So yeah, but they used to still love it. They're like, oh, this is so good. I'll just hog
Right.
on to it and then worry about the consequences in the morning. So they used to
Yes.
love my food. So I used to experiment with a little bit of food. And I had
Right.
work too, so I was working. Then
Mm-hmm.
I was catching up on some reading. I was catching up on some breathing exercise, a little bit of yoga,
Right.
and then what else was I doing? A lot of Zoom calls with the friends. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I somehow survived, and so I used to be a big gaming enthusiast. I was very good at it. We used to go
Right.
into cafes and play a lot, and then we used to attend tournaments. We used to win. So
Wow.
I was catching up on that part. All my old friends, they also got back into gaming because they had nothing to do too. So we were all fighting. We were all playing games and online, and we were
Nice.
shouting. I used to wake up the whole neighborhood, uh, keeping my headphones and my mic on, thinking I'm just quiet and talking to my friends. All my friends, we used to game until like 2 o'clock in the night, 3 o'clock in the night. So time just
Right.
flew. So
Wow.
yeah, I was involved in multiple things. Then I was researching a few things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what
Mm-hmm.
if there's another pandemic? Then what then? So I invested in a
Right.
farmland. So I have
Wow.
a 2 acre farm in Bangalore now.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
trying to build a permaculture nursery there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I had to diversify myself. I had to ensure
Right. Right.
survival was very very important. So yeah, I was trying to
Yes.
diversify here there.
Super.
Then I recently had a kid, had a son.
Ah,
Yeah,
congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, so he's been a
Sweet.
handful again.
Ah, sweet.
So yeah, it's there's a lot of things happening. So I was somehow engaged myself and not going down that rabbit hole of
Right.
depression. Somehow
Yeah.
sustained myself. So
Super.
yeah, everybody around me was helpful. Everybody took care of me, ensured I was
Right.
fine. So it was really really wonderful. But yeah, the
Amazing.
pandemic wasn't.
Yes, yes. But
And it's still
glad.
there. We are still in the pandemic,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So
Yes, absolutely.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, as you said, it's all about being resilient and being
yeah,
tenacious and going ahead. And of
yeah.
course, doing with whatever resources that we have. And of course,
Correct,
going
correct, correct.
ahead with it. I think not just bowing down to it, but just going ahead. Super. So we come
Yeah,
to the
not
last
thinking
section, which
about
I,
the past, but thinking ahead.
yeah,
That's it. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
Right. So we come to the last section, which I call as the pruner spotlight section. So I'm going to run you through five
Mm-hmm.
questions, and it could be on the personal or professional front. And so you could answer to me in a word or two, or a couple of sentences. So I totally leave that up to you. So my first
Okay.
question is,
Hopefully, you're
um,
not going to embarrass me.
no, no, come on,
I'm just
it's
kidding.
gonna be
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm sure.
What is your ikigai? So ikigai is nothing but the reason for your being. So what is that one thing
Hmm?
that you would do um, on any given day, no matter what is happening around the world? So what is that one thing that keeps you going every day?
So the one thing that keeps me going every day is definitely my family and
Ah,
my
super.
love for beer and my love for nature. Right, I just want
Wow,
to ensure the nature survives for our future generation. So I try to do the
absolutely,
best I can. Uh,
absolutely.
and then